This is going to be the cardiac cycle. I'm going to have it diagrammed in 6 stages. You guys can make a T chart. We're going to have deoxygenated on the left. And we're going to have oxygenated blood on the right. This is going to be 6 steps. Now, I'm going to be asking you questions throughout this class. Consider this a warm-up for your quiz in 48 hours. I want you to stop and think. It is not a race. Stop and think before you answer. If anyone ever tells you to don't think before you speak, they can kiss your butt. You need to think before you speak. And also, think before you hit send too, or post, or whatever it is you do. Think about it. So let's start from the beginning. We're going to do both. And I want you to keep in mind, this is simultaneous. Step 1. Blood is going to enter the heart. Can you tell me what blood vessels blood will enter the heart on the deoxygenated side? Very good. So blood enters the heart via the superior and inferior vena cava. Very good. All right. Now, at the very same time, that's why we're doing these simultaneously. Blood is going to return to the heart from the lungs. What blood vessels allows blood to return from the lungs back to the heart? Pulmonary veins. Blood enters the heart via the left and right pulmonary, yeah, you're right, pulmonary. Is it veins or arteries? Very good, veins. What is unique about the pulmonary veins? They're the only veins in your entire body that carry oxygenated blood. Very good. All right. So this happens simultaneously. Step 2. What chamber in your heart will the inferior and superior vena cava dump blood into? The right atrium. Blood enters and fills the right atrium. Now, as a side note, in order for the right atrium to fill with blood, what valve must be closed? Yes, the tricuspid is closed. Very good. At the exact same time, what chamber will blood enter once it is passed through the pulmonary veins? Imagine the heart in your head. Think about it. The left atrium is correct. Blood enters, and fills the left atrium. And in order for the left atrium to fill with blood, what valve must be closed? What is another name for the bicuspid? Mitral valve is closed. On Thursday's quiz, if Dylan says the bicuspid valve, that's the bicuspid valve. He's right. If Dan says, oh, no, that's the mitral valve, he's right too. You can use either one. I don't mind. Yes. Yeah, yes. It's going to be very similar to that. Okay. Now we get to your first contraction. Think about the order. Are we going to do the lub or the dub? Is that the weaker one or the stronger one? Weaker one. Very good. So you're going to have your first contraction. cardiac muscle contracts, tricuspid valve opens, and now that the tricuspid valve has opened, where will blood flow into? The right ventricle. Blood flows into and fills the right ventricle. Now, in order for the right ventricle to fill up, what valve must be closed? What follows the right ventricle? The what, Isabella? Pulmonary what? Valve, the pulmonary valve. Because the pulmonary artery, pulmonary trunk, I want to make sure you say pulmonary valve. So that's something important to know. The pulmonary valve is closed. This first contraction is the lub, okay? Lub dub, lub dub, lub dub. This is the lub. It is the weaker of the two. Dub is stronger. Yeah. All right. For at the exact same time on your right, or sorry, your left side of your heart, you're having your first contraction. So this is one big contraction. Cardiac muscle contracts. The bicuspid, aka mitral valve, opens. Blood flows and fills the what chamber? Left ventricle. In order for the left ventricle to fill up with blood, what valve must be closed? Visualize the anatomy of the heart. What valve follows the left ventricle? Lily? The aortic valve. This is the lub. Again, this is the weaker one. See, this is happening on both sides simultaneously. We're halfway through. So right now, blood has poured from the atrium into the ventricle on both sides of your heart. Let's go on to step 4. Step 4 is going to be easy. This is in between contractions. So when you hear lub dub, lub dub, lub dub, this is that brief little gap between lub and dub. The atria, I should be specific, right? The right atrium relaxes and the tricuspid valve closes. Can you guys think of a consequence of leaving your tricuspid valve open once blood is in the ventricle? It could go backwards. Blood could flow backwards, and that's not good. There are plenty of people in the world and in society and even in the school that have a faulty tricuspid valve. And so when their valves close, a little bit of blood can kind of squirt backwards, and that's not good. Sometimes you have to have a valve replacement. Like you could take a cadaver, a dead person's valve, and put it into your heart. You could have a pig valve put into your heart. Or we have the technology now where scientists can grow a valve using your own stem cells. They'll use it to instruct it to make valve cells, and you'll make your own heart valve, and then you put it in your body. All right, moving on over here. This is almost identical. In between the lub dub The left atrium relaxes and the bicuspid valve closes. Once again, why would it be very important for your bicuspid valve to close once blood has entered your left ventricle? You don't want it to go backwards. Not good. All right. Now, here comes not probably. This is the big one, okay? This is, what did I put earlier? This is the second contraction. This is the dub. Cardiac muscle contracts. And this is going to be a much more powerful contraction than love. This is very powerful. The ventricles the right ventricle, I'm trying to keep it separated. The right ventricle squeezes blood out. In order for this to happen, the tricuspid is closed, but what valve must be opened to let blood out of your right ventricle? Think about it. Visualize the heart in your mind. What valve follows the right ventricle and it must be open to pass on to the next stage? Pulmonary valve. Okay, good. So tricuspid is closed because you don't want it to go backwards. Pulmonary valve is open. And that's the key. And this will allow blood to pass into the pulmonary trunk. All right. Let's move on over to your oxygenated side. We have our second contraction. Cardiac muscle contracts. The left ventricle squeezes blood out. In order for blood to be moving forward on your right side, what valve must be open and what valve must be closed? Let's start with the closed one first. What valve must be closed for blood to remain flowing forward? The bicuspid must be closed. What valve must be open? The aortic valve is open. Good. And blood passes to what part after your left ventricle? Blood passes into the aorta. I want to make sure you guys are clear on something. This can be this is the first time you've learned this in your life. The descending aorta or the aortic arch is all considered the aorta. It's all part of it. So when you hear me saying the aorta is the last stop, and you might be thinking, but I thought there was the descending aorta. The descending aorta is going to be part of the aorta. And then finally, step 6. Once blood is in the pulmonary trunk, what does it exit the heart out of and where does it go? Where does it exit? No, not the left side. Or excuse me, I said that wrong, Eva. The right side, your deoxygenated part. Right. So blood exits the pulmonary arteries to the, where are they going? Where's the blood going? Lungs. Very good. Now, guys, at the exact same time this is happening, at the exact same time, guess what's happening at the beginning of the right side? More blood is coming in. The right atrium fills with blood again. And the whole process repeats itself on the right side. Okay, now let's finish it off. On the oxygenated side, your left side, blood exits the what? How does blood get out of the heart on the left side? All right. Blood exits the aorta to the, where's it going? To the body. Very good. And at the exact same time that's happening, the left atrium fills with blood again. And the whole process repeats itself. I have one last little bit for you to add, and then we will be done. Let you guys catch up. I want you to underline lung. I want you to bring it on down here. I want to ask you something. When we say that your blood is deoxygenated, it means it has no oxygen. But what gas is the blood carrying? Where did that carbon dioxide come from? Your cells. Something that you should have learned when you were in bio is that all of your cells perform cell respiration. And there's two byproducts of cell respiration, water and CO2. Every single one of your cells that receives oxygen produces CO2. And so your deoxygenated blood transports that CO2 back to your lungs. And what becomes of the CO2 when your blood has returned it to your lungs? Scout, you just did it. I watched you. You did this. You exhale it out. It goes back in the atmosphere. And what organisms in this world use the CO2 that heterotrophs like us exhale? Plants, autotrophs, right? So blood brings CO2 to the lungs. Scout, what do we do with that CO2? We exhale it. You return it to the atmosphere, and the plants and the autotrophs will use it. What does your blood get from your lungs? It's dropped off the CO2. What does it pick up? Right. Blood collects O2 from the lungs. Good. And let's finish off on the right side. I want you to underline the body. Bring it on down here. Blood brings what to where on your oxygenated side? It brings oxygen, which is O2, to the what? Not just muscles, everything. Muscles, organs, bones, brain, everything. We're going to just say the body. And then what does blood collect from your body? Yes, it collects CO2 from the body. Okay, last question, promise, and we're done. What would follow step 6 on the red? So we got step 6 on the blue side. What would follow step 6 from the blue side over on the red side? What would follow step 6 on the blue side? Step 1 on the red. So we come all the way up here, and this is where step 6 continues. You don't need to make this arrow. It picks up right where oxygenated side begins. And then what follows step 6 on the red side? Step 1 on the blue. This is what we call a cycle, everyone. It's a cardiac cycle. All right, tomorrow, I'm going to teach you what parts of your heart actually generate this pace, this lub dub, lub dub, lub dub, lub dub. It's a pace. And maybe sometimes that pace gets knocked out of balance, but you want to get it back in rhythm again. Sometimes you need to shock it or take medicine to try to fix it.